Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and what a delight and an honor to have back with us today Jordan Sekulow. He is the Executive Director of the American Center for Law and Justice. And let me encourage you to go to their website and make it a must-read every day and support what they do at aclj.org, aclj.org. Jordan, good to see you again, my friend. The best to you and your dad and your entire team. Thank you, guys, for all the things you do to keep us updated.
Thank you, Perry, and thanks to everybody at theDove for covering these important news and for your show.
Thank you, thank you. Well, we're all on tilt. What James Comey did over the weekend, or at least Friday, have we ever seen anything like this?
No, we're talking 11 days out before this is when it happened, 11 days before the presidential election. Now we're 8 days away, within a week of the presidential election. The FBI, after they close an investigation, say there'll be no prosecutions, people were very upset. Jim Comey's come under a lot of criticism for how the initial investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server and the potentially criminal sharing of classified information was handled. Remember, Hillary Clinton wasn't even under oath during her testimony with the FBI. A number of the top Clinton officials got full immunity or different types of immunity. The FBI promised to even destroy documents. And there's been it's been reported is that there's been, Perry, a kind of mutiny going on inside the FBI. And so there have been these new emails discovered, an investigation that probably should have never been closed in the first place, certainly should never have been closed in the first place. It has been mishandled from the start. And ultimately, I do believe that a lot of this is Jim Comey trying to protect himself. He would not follow the manual. He didn't follow the normal course of an investigation. And now, while you had a lot of conservatives very upset at Jim Comey, now you've got plenty of Hillary Clinton supporters very upset. And I think we blame this all on how Jim Comey and the FBI have handled this investigation the entire time. And I would not put it past Jim Comey, again, to upset conservatives again later this week and say, you know what, never mind, we looked. There was nothing really relevant here, but this is causing, really, I understand the anger on both sides of this issue, Hillary Clinton's side too, because this is not how the FBI is supposed to operate. Now, that being said, I don't think that Jim Comey would make this kind of announcement over info that wasn't very pertinent, that wasn't very important to their investigation. But I do believe, because of how poorly, Perry, he's handled this investigation from the beginning, that his hands were a bit tied because his internal, the agents at the FBI had just been sick and tired of the politics of this, were ready to basically put on a full mutiny there because it had tainted, this whole process has tainted the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Well, this is an amazing thing. Now, can Loretta Lynch preempt this in any way?
She tried to. Loretta Lynch tried to stop Jim Comey from even notifying Congress, Perry. So Jim Comey went to her because she is technically his boss and said, listen, we've got new information because of the Anthony Weiner, a separate investigation into his inappropriate relationships with a minor that the FBI was conducting. We've now stumbled upon these emails from, it appears, Huma Abedin to one of her private email accounts. This could be the thousands of missing emails that have been talked about. This could be hundreds, but we've been told it's a significant amount of emails, at least a significant amount of data. And we need to investigate this. I think I need to tell members of Congress. That's what he told Loretta Lynch. She said, do not do this. And she pointed to the DOJ kind of handbook, which the FBI follows as well, that when you're this close to an election, you do not do anything that could potentially interfere with that election. You wait until after. Jim Comey, though, is not a normal political appointee. He serves a 10-year term as FBI director. So he's appointed by a president, whoever happens to be in office during a time when there's a vacancy at the FBI director level. But he's not serving at the pleasure of the president, like Loretta Lynch, who can be fired by President Obama at any moment. And so it's a different kind of situation. So she told him, I don't think you should do this. He decided to do it anyways. I'll tell you, I think it was disastrous. Only Jim Comey has himself to blame here for how he has handled this situation. I don't think that, because Jim Comey did this. I get the reaction initially that, this is so much better. At least he has corrected his wrong. That is not the truth. He put to bed this entire investigation months too early, let Hillary Clinton testify without being under oath, hasn't released all the information, early voting is already going on across the country. Some estimates that 40% of votes will already be received before Election Day next week. And now this October surprise, if you will, coming from, of all places, not one of the campaigns, but the FBI. Again, I think it continues to taint the FBI. He may try and right this wrong, but ultimately you're going to have a lot of anger on both sides, because look at what he set up. If the investigation continues on past the election, Hillary Clinton has got to run the rest of her campaign with this idea that she's under criminal investigation once again, her and her staff, up and through Election Day, to the point where people could be voting for someone who could be facing prosecution. But while they are supposed to be becoming president of the United States, that's a problem. Second problem, of course, is that you only have conservatives who feel like this is a rigged process. You now have the left feeling like this is a rigged process. You put that together, you talk about unrest after Election Day next week. I think it's very real. And to have the FBI in the middle of this, it's not what the American people want. It's why they had plenty of time to do this investigation the right way. They did it the wrong way. They never followed the rules. They had Bill Clinton meeting with the Attorney General of the United States, Loretta Lynch, on the tarmac in Phoenix, Arizona, on each other's plane, just days before the FBI was going to question Hillary Clinton, and just about a week before the FBI initially, through Jim Comey, closed the investigation. They brought this upon themselves. I do believe it should damage Hillary Clinton, but I also believe that this is kind of it's the same attitude that was on the right about this is now also on the left. I mean, so you've got now Republicans and Democrats both upset at the FBI.
On the other hand, Jordan, you got 650,000 emails. It's possible that some of those are classified information on Anthony Weiner's laptop that only could come from Hillary's private server. Isn't that enough to reopen the case?
Oh, it's certainly, this case should never have been closed. There was enough information, Perry. This case should not have been closed at all. What we do know is that what's on this server here, if it's more than just a handful, because he dismissed the handful amount, so it's going to be something more significant, just one or two documents that were grossly, mishandled, as Comey talked about. This is real. We need to take it seriously. When the FBI gets involved, it's criminal. But here's the problem, is that Jim Comey's leading it. And let's not forget, the number two at the FBI was had his wife receiving nearly $500,000 from a PAC connected to Hillary Clinton that she fundraised for. That's the number two at the FBI who's overseeing this investigation. As we have said since Friday and been made very clear since this all broke, that the FBI, when it comes to Jim Comey and the director level, should not be involved in this investigation anymore. It needs to go to a grand jury that needs to be impaneled to look at the evidence. They've put together the warrants to get the information. That's great. Now give it to a grand jury, give it to the career agents, give it to the career prosecutors, not those of them like Comey, like McCabe, like Attorney General Lynch, who have been tainted because of their political involvement.
Why didn't it go to a grand jury to begin with, say in June?
Because they never even brought charges. So they didn't even suggest going that way. If prosecutors would have determined that they wanted to bring charges, that's when they would have impaneled a grand jury is to look at this issue about what charges would be relevant and to who they would be brought against. It's very common in Washington, D.C. They have these grand juries ready to go basically 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And yet, what we saw was that unprecedented move, Perry, by the FBI director back in July to come out, do this press conference, talk about how everything was mishandled, everything was so bad, but no prosecutor would bring the case. That was also not following the manual. The FBI's job is to do the investigation, put the facts together, and then give it to the DOJ prosecutors so they determine if they believe they should bring a case. They do that with the grand jury. But again, that's why Hillary Clinton, no one was ever charged with anything. They did, and they never even got to a level where they attempted to charge anyone with anything.
All right, so we've heard the continuing backstory that there was a mounting mutiny within the FBI among agents from the first part of the investigation.
Right.
Does this worsen it? I mean, does this really discredit these agents? Do they go ahead with their mutiny, or do they ride this one out?
It all depends on what what Comey does next. I think the only way for Comey to save some face, and I say some because I don't think he can save a lot, is to really turn this over to people outside of who have been this political taint, whether it's him, his deputy, who is, again, his wife's a Democrat politician receiving all this money after a Clinton fundraiser. We can go through all this. We know those people need to step aside. We've called for him to be impeached after the first time. That doesn't really change for us, this new move, because again, we believe that this is horrendous what the FBI has done. To wait weeks, they knew this for weeks, and they decide just 11 days before the election that this is when they are going to announce it. That is wrong. So, folks, I think for everybody out there, the way to right this wrong in the immediate is to quickly empower a grand jury, let them look at the information, and let's get the truth out there. And listen, I'm fine with what Clinton and the Trump campaign are both saying, which is get all the emails out there. I'd be fine with that, but that's up to the FBI if they'll actually make that kind of release.
Let me take a quick break here, Jordan. We'll come right back. And again, we're talking to Jordan Sekulow, who's Executive Director of the American Center for Law and Justice, one of the great legal hawks in our country. He and his dad and their team. Let me encourage you to go to aclj.org. And, of course, it's an incredible resource, but support what they do at aclj.org. We'll be right back.
I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Welcome back to Focus Today, and what a delight and an honor to have with us Jordan Sekulow, Executive Director of the American Center for Law and Justice. And their website is a must. You just got to go to there often and support what they do. Go to aclj.org. That's aclj.org. And again, Jordan, to you and your dad and your whole team, thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you, Perry.
Do you think that FBI Director Comey has to come out publicly in the next day or so and say something?
Well, it would appear to be. I mean, he's going to get a lot of pressure from the Clinton campaign, but I think to some extent the Trump campaign as well, to get a little bit more in detail about what was in his letter. I don't buy the Clinton campaign spin, by the way. They tried that. It wasn't even clear in his letter to Congress that it was about the Hillary Clinton investigation. That is totally untrue. He makes it very clear. So it's about the Clinton investigation, about the email server, about the classified information. But I do think he could come out in the next couple of days and make it clear exactly how much data. We can all read about it in the news, but how much data, how many emails are we looking at here, especially if they can deduplicate those that they may already have, and then what is their course forward? What is their planned course forward? This may be unusual for the FBI, but has every other move by Jim Comey. So I think that he needs to really announce, are they turning this over to a grand jury? Are they turning this over to prosecutors, career folks, out of their hands? But what are we dealing with? I think the American people deserve to know before Election Day, and the sooner the better. As some states, early voting closes in just a few days, and many people plan to early vote. They deserve to get as much information as possible. And if the FBI was sitting on this for weeks, they will certainly know. If it's a significant amount of classified data that they've got to go through, I think letting the people know that. If it's, again, the Clinton campaign has said, put it out there. The Trump campaign has said, put it out there. There's going to, if Jim Comey tries to leave it at this letter, Perry, I think that he has just continued to imperil the justice process of the United States. One thing that we've said at the ACLJ is that because we're leading up to Election Day, and now you've got both the right and the left so upset with the government right now, and specifically an agency where you're not really supposed to like. I mean, you're supposed to trust. There's a difference there. The FBI, in a sense, should be feared in a good way. They're there to get the bad guys, criminal behavior and criminal activity, and to protect us in our country from that. So, this liking, not liking the FBI, that's one thing. I think it's more about respect and trust. But we do believe that we're on the precipice of a constitutional crisis because of the election being so close to this announcement. That if things are not handled quickly, much better by the FBI in a much more transparent way, then you could have real unrest and uncertainty about our election, which is just less than a week, just a week away.
All right, a couple questions come out of this, Jordan. I don't know how she could possibly govern. I mean, the polls are still tight. She could still win, And I don't know how she governs with this hanging over her head. So let's go to one of the scenarios that's being talked about. She wins the election, but between the time she's elected and she takes the oath of office, she's indicted. What happens?
Well, you could do a couple of things. President Obama could pardon her for this, so he will still be in office until January. He could certainly issue a pardon. That would be politically maybe, again, upset a lot of people, but he could do it. There's questions about the president even pardoning themselves. That would be if it was in later into January. There's constitutional. This is why I talk about constitutional crisis, right on the precipice of being one. These are all activities that, if she were leaving office, it'd be one thing, I think, if she got a pardon from someone like President Obama, because she'd be coming in. These would bring up unique issues. Could she be impeached by the House of Representatives and then through the Senate, depending on how this impacts the elections also at that level as well, the congressional elections with this news? And what would happen if someone was to be impeached? And can they be impeached based off behavior not while they were president, but while they were a former government official? These are all the constitutional problems that arise from what the FBI has created. They could have done this investigation the right way, Perry, not necessarily finish it up in July, but finish it up in time for even the Democratic Party could have decided that Hillary Clinton was not fit to be their nominee because of all these legal issues that may be still hanging over her head, even after she may win on Election Day, that she'll still be a distracted incoming president of the United States. And because of that, or president-elect, because of that, it puts us on that cusp of a constitutional crisis because our laws will be truly tested when it comes to how we elect presidents, and all of these different rules govern the time period between their election and when they're in office, the pardon power. You could see how this gets very complicated in a real way. I don't like using that word on things that I think are more simple than the media likes to say they are. But on this issue, you're talking about real complications even post-election.
All right. Can the Judiciary Committee call Comey immediately to come forward and say, hey, what's going on here?
So, Perry, they'd have to go into an emergency session. They are out. Congress is out right now because of the elections. Understandably, in a normal time period, they would be out because they're also having every member of the House of Representatives is up for re-election. And certainly many of the United States senators are. Could they? It is possible. I think we'd have to just watch in these next few hours if they were able to get enough of the folks back to Washington, D.C., and if the government officials were going to cooperate or not. So we could watch for that maybe in the next couple of days, but I think we'll just have to kind of see where Congress is going. I think everyone is still, even though it's been a few days, it went right into a weekend, that people are still trying to figure out if Jim Comey is going to come out and explain more.
So let's say he comes out and says, all right, there's obvious classified information we found on this laptop, and that is enough not only to reopen the case, but to prosecute. Whoa. Now we're really in a tailspin.
Huge ramifications. I think it's important to note that since this came out on Friday, Huma Abedin is off the campaign trail with Hillary Clinton. Now, let's put this in perspective. She wasn't off the campaign trail with Hillary Clinton when the situation her now husband, who she's separated from, Anthony Weiner, was caught not just with inappropriate adult relationships, but in an inappropriate relationship with a minor potentially, and that's what's being investigated by the FBI separately. She was off the campaign trail the next day with Hillary Clinton. She's always been by Clinton's side, even when she's going through, Huma Abedin has gone through her own personal, just what you would usually say are such distracting issues, you would yank them off the campaign trail. She is now off, as of right now, the campaign trail with Hillary Clinton. So she would be person number one. We don't know if she has immunity. It hasn't been made public yet. So if she has not received any of that, it would appear that she could have certainly lied under oath in her testimony when she said she turned over all the devices and all of the emails she had access to, if they do in fact find new information, especially classified information on this laptop that was being forwarded to not one of her government emails, not even a Clinton private server email, but to a Yahoo account.
All right, so you really have three cases going on here, Jordan. You got the Weiner case, which is really sexting with a minor. You got the Huma Abedin case, which is basically perjury. And then you got the Clinton case reopened because classified information was found on a private laptop. Is that correct?
Is there more? is there new classified information, Perry? That would affect the whole Clinton case. The fact that Huma Abedin testified under oath, that affects her and people like her, depending on who other people's emails are in there that may have testified under oath that they did or didn't do something. They could then be, perjury, obstruction of justice, obstruction of evidence, all these different issues. So you've got the big picture, Clinton, how it could everybody could really be in trouble. And then you go to the individuals themselves. Of course, this all supposedly coming out of, and I say that also because I think it's a bit bizarre, the FBI's investigation into Anthony Weiner on a separate matter. Because I say that because this mutiny that was happening at the FBI, Perry, that we're hearing that these agents had these emails ready to get a warrant to get into them 3 weeks ago. Why on earth would the FBI wait to get closer to the general election to get this settled, at least to figure this out before telling the American people? Why would they wait so long? And I guarantee you this was a political battle going on between the FBI, the DOJ, and the Obama officials.
I just think that the mutiny pressure internally was so great that he finally had to break and do something, even though the timing was lousy.
Yep. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think he had lost control of his agency and was right on the cusp of not just people going as anonymous sources to newspapers, which we're already starting to see. But remember, his FBI was also implicated in this. They were the ones doing the quid pro quo with the State Department. And some of those former officials started talking to the media as well about, changing email classifications. I do believe that the pressure had gotten so high that we may have been on the cusp of whistleblowers. These are named people stepping outside their role, saying enough is enough. I'm going to put myself out there as a witness, as a name, not just an anonymous source. And if the FBI were to suffer that, it would take down the whole agency.
All right. So how do we restore credibility within the justice system of the United States? How does your profession regain credibility?
Well, I think most folks at the FBI are totally fine individuals. There's always issues. I mean, you got people, they make mistakes. But what you do is Jim Comey's got to go. I don't care who wins the election. He must go. So should all of his deputies, including the one who's fundraising with Hillary Clinton's wife. They need to go. There needs to be a complete restructuring at the top. They need to be, again, refocus on how they conduct investigations. They need training once again. If they would have followed their FBI manuals and the Department of Justice manuals, none of this would have happened. But these guys think that they are so smart and so cunning and that they can come up with all these new ways. Jim Comey has looked like, to not use a nice word, but to be honest, a moron since July when he came out and said Hillary Clinton broke all these laws. But I don't suggest doing anything. No FBI officials ever done that before because no FBI officials had the gall to believe that was their decision to make. Now he's coming out and turning it over and saying, well, now I got to reopen it. You realize, Perry, really what he was doing in that letter was really not about Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or Huma Abedin. It was about covering Jim Comey. Jim Comey was correcting his testimony under oath. If he hadn't have done that, he also would have lied under oath, which is a crime.
Amazing. Absolutely mind-boggling. Well, Jordan, again, thanks for your time. We value it greatly. The best to you and your team. Let's stay in touch. Let's see where this goes. We got 8 days to go. And let me say to our viewers and listeners, go to aclj.org, their website. You'll see a lot of this information and their commentary there and support what they do. Thanks, Jordan. Say hi to your dad for us, okay?
Will do. Thanks, Perry.
All right, God bless. We'll be right back.